After a tiring day at work, this young police officer dragged himself home. As soon as he arrived, he rushed into the bathroom to wash away his guilt, then had some beer to clear his head. In his drunken stupor, thoughts about the cases kept swirling in his mind. While he was lost in his thoughts, a drop of cold water suddenly fell on his forehead. He looked at the man in the helmet in front of him and was startled. Before he could even utter a word, the man directly used a headbutt, knocking him unconscious. Sujin, a handsome and talented police officer, but with a slightly flawed personality, finally got promoted thanks to his tireless efforts. One morning, as birds chirped outside his window, Sujin calmly walked down to the parking garage to go to work. But as soon as he got there, the sight before him left him stunned and speechless. It was only morning, but his car had been completely vandalized. Not only that, there were signs that the person intentionally destroyed his car. In a fit of rage, he immediately ran over. The security guard requested to extract the camera footage to clarify the matter. He was determined to find the person who had damaged his car and make them pay for their actions. However, what the surveillance camera recorded left the young police officer stunned and bewildered once again. He never imagined, even in his wildest dreams, that the person constantly dancing on the car's hood was himself. Under the questioning gaze of the security guard, Sujin felt utterly humiliated. He couldn't believe it. Seeing what was happening before his eyes, he couldn't believe the person in the video was him. Only a madman would vandalize his own car. Could it be that he also had a mental illness that he didn't know about? After resolving the car problem he himself caused, Swan still had to continue his work. Just arriving at work, the unlucky young man was scolded again by his subordinate, Kim, his ex-girlfriend. She wanted to know why Swan decided to investigate his captain when he, completely innocent in the eyes of the curly-haired girl, Swan was no different from a puppy who only knew how to wag its tail to please its owner. From the beginning, he was willing to do anything just to get promoted. Even though the curly-haired girl was raging and constantly cursing, Swan still maintained his calm attitude to explain to her that he did want to climb higher, but everything he had done and was doing was for the mission he was assigned. Hearing this, the curly-haired girl gritted her teeth and threw a punch, directly knocking Swan to the ground. The young police officer kept yelling, "Oh, life is so unlucky, and so full of hair." Sujin not only destroyed his own car but was also mercilessly harassed by his colleagues. But what needed to be done still had to be done. Sujin slowly walked into the interrogation room. At this time, his squinting colleague had been waiting for him for a while. Today, the two of them had the task of interrogating Captain Park, who had been arrested and brought to the police station on charges of harming a mysterious candy enthusiast just after he had been released. Under Sujin's relentless questioning, Captain Park honestly confessed last night. In the dim, flickering lights, Captain Park arrived at an abandoned building to find Misu, one of his teammates. However, upon arriving, Captain Park saw Misu practicing flying from a tall building. The impact was so strong that Misu died instantly. Seeing his teammate die so unexpectedly, Captain Park immediately fell into a state of panic. Looking up at the building where Misu had just practiced flying, Captain Park suddenly saw a strange man. Without thinking, he immediately ran 5 flights of stairs. Up there, determined to catch the person who harmed his teammate. After a struggle, Captain Park finally caught the suspect, but in a moment of distraction, the suspect pulled out a piece of glass and stabbed Captain Park in the thigh. Unwilling to let the suspect escape, Captain Park immediately took out his gun and fired a shot. Although he didn't hit a vital spot, the shot caused him to fall from the high floor to the ground. That fall directly sent the suspect to the afterlife to reunite with Minsu after hearing the team's words. Captain Park begins to express his thoughts from the perspective of a police officer. After careful analysis, he concludes that there is no reason for the suspect to harm Minsu when Minsu was alive, as they had a very close relationship. In the past, the suspect was known as a notorious dealer of mysterious candies in the area. Thanks to Minsu's constant persuasion, he finally came to his senses. However, Captain Park doesn't think so, because in his eyes, those who are obsessed with mysterious candies are heartless people. As long as it benefits them, they are willing to do anything, even if it affects those who have helped them. After hearing this, Sujin immediately presented an argument to refute what Captain Back had just said. Sujin slowly turned to ask the squint-eyed man sitting next to him, "If you witnessed your teammate being harmed by someone else, what would you do?" Without thinking, the squint-eyed man immediately gave his own answer. "If that happened, I would send him to meet my grandfather, and in a heartbeat, I'm not afraid of anyone. The enemy is strong, but only fears the naive teammate who knows nothing." While Swan was deliberately creating evidence unfavorable to Captain Park, his teammate was extremely honest throughout the interrogation. Swan constantly pressured Captain Park. No one could prove whether Captain Park's act of throwing a mat on the suspect's thigh to make him fall from a height was accidental or intentional. Therefore, Captain Park's actions could be classified as indirectly harming another person. However, Captain Park still insisted that he was innocent. What did he do wrong? He had no intention of dealing with the suspect. He only wanted to prevent him from escaping. The more Swan provoked Captain Park, the more he lost control of his thoughts and actions. However, this made Swan extremely satisfied because his goal was to make Captain Park lose control of his words. Finally, Swan angrily shouted at Captain Park and told him a truth. To this day, the police have not been able to find evidence to prove that the man Captain Park harmed was the one who dealt with Misu. From that, it can be confirmed that Captain Park dealt with an innocent person during the execution process. After the interrogation ended, Captain Park went home fuming, while Swan was extremely happy. The interrogation was more successful than expected. Swan happily ran to his superior's office. Upon receiving news of Swan's victory, his superior immediately opened a new bottle of wine to celebrate. If Swan could kick Captain Park out of the house this time, he would soon be promoted. Only the superior, laughing, reminded Swan that he had acted a little too harshly. It's heavy for Captain Park. However, if an upright person like Captain Park retires, Sujin's path to advancement will become even smoother. Not long ago, Captain Park had a falling out with a very wealthy politician. At that time, the politician didn't hesitate to send the politician's nephew behind bars. So now, if he had to choose, the ideal choice would still be Sujin. Although he's happier than during Tet, Vietnamese New Year, Sujin still humbly says that he does everything only for the sake of justice. In a successful society, who wouldn't be happy to have eliminated such a formidable opponent? Thanks to the loving flip of his ex-girlfriend, Sujin's body is now extremely sore after hours of stressful work. Sujin decided to go to a sauna to relax his mind. The comfort that the hot steam brought made him gradually drift into a dreamy sleep. At this moment, a man wearing a helmet and completely covered clothing suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The man slowly walked into the sauna room and he dragged Sujin out in the most brutal way. Then he directly threw Sujin onto the cold ground and relentlessly subjected him to physical abuse. Not stopping there, the mysterious person heartlessly sprayed hot water directly into the police officer's face, causing him to scream in pain. Finally, he delivered a punch to the face, causing Sujin to lose his balance and fall into the swimming pool. Submerged in the cold water, Sujin gradually regained consciousness. As a police officer, if he were to be sent to meet the King of Hell after just being abused like this, he would certainly not be worthy of this title. After waking up from his dream, Sujin immediately went to the bathroom reception desk to report the situation. However, after checking all the surveillance cameras, the receptionist confirmed that there was no man wearing a helmet today. Entering the bathroom also proved that what Sujin said was completely unfounded. Thinking that perhaps this guest was not mentally stable, the receptionist looked at Sujin with a wary gaze. Despite being humiliated and despite being a police officer, Sujin, still unable to find the attacker, Swan was furious when he suddenly received a call from his superior. As Swan returned to the police station, Officer Joe had just arrived at work. Seeing the luxurious car Officer Joe had just bought, Swan was astonished. To say he wasn't envious of his colleague owning such a luxury car would be a lie, especially after learning that Joe wasn't rich and also had a father who was a close friend of the running commissioner. The smile on Swan's face vanished. This meant that the position he was hoping for was now uncertain. It will likely belong to Jay. Because the old saying goes, first, relationships, second, money, third, descendants. Sujin, still angry, went to complain to his boss in the blue uniform, but he sighed and said, "If someone is richer than you have to accept it." Sujin sighed and lamented, "Today is truly an unlucky day for me. Everywhere I go, I encounter problems." The scene shifts to a young police officer named Con. He sees a little girl posting a poster, looking for the mother of the 31-year-old woman in the picture. Her name is Juna, and she is the mother of this poor girl. The police officer felt sorry for the little girl. The young girl was taken to the police station to report the case. The person in charge of this case was the cousin of the running commissioner. This man with a grim face told Kong that the missing girl he reported had recently been released by the law. He also said she had a criminal record for using occult candy, which is why she had to serve time. Finally, he said in a confident tone that she must have felt ashamed of her family, so Juna left. When Ki-on-T took the girl back to her grandmother's house, she revealed that her mother usually came home every Sunday. Moreover, Juna often, writing a letter to his daughter. The last time they spoke, Juna promised to give her a birthday present. Feeling sorry for the girl whose mother had gone missing, Kong-T promised to help her find her mother. He investigated Juna's call records and learned where she lived. an apartment building with grumpy and uncooperative security guards. Luckily, he met a woman who lived nearby. Juna's apartment door was plastered with flyers and packages piled on top of each other. He didn't have the key, so he had to call a locksmith, opened the door to enter the house even though he knew it was against the law. Yeon-tae stepped into the tidy apartment with photos of his daughter that the mother had placed on the cabinet and a child-sized dress hanging in the room. What was particularly striking was the bathroom, which reeked of bleach. Sensing the smell of kanghae, he carefully pried open the drain and pulled out a clump of hair soaked in strawberry syrup. The young police officer's jaw dropped at the evidence he had found. Just then, the thuggish-looking police officer appeared, delivering a series of powerful blows to Yeon-tae. Judging by the way he acted, one would think this was a thug, a gangster, not a police officer. He accidentally met Commissioner Do at his family's pizza shop and was extremely excited. He was a well-known politician, so if he could win his favor, his promotion would be much easier. They chatted happily like close friends. He was sure he would benefit from this, but then everything made him reconsider when he met Commissioner Do's cousin. This tough-looking police officer had beaten him up badly when he went to the police station where the cousin worked and witnessed the injuries on his face. He felt indignant when the male protagonist arranged a private conversation with his colleague. Ki told the male protagonist about the little girl reporting her mother missing, as well as the fact that he had entered Juna's house and found a clump of hair with beard syrup on it. Then he told the male protagonist that there was definitely something fishy going on, that entering someone's house without permission was wrong, but Ki had no other choice because he had promised the little girl he would find her mother. After hearing this, the male protagonist sighed at his colleague's enthusiastic investigation. He said that, as a police officer, it's impossible to act on impulse like that. Soojin usually doesn't care about superiors bullying subordinates like in Ki's case, but he still went to find the tough-looking police officer to warn him not to arbitrarily bully others. In addition, he demanded that the officer apologize to the young police officer. The arrogant, tough-looking police officer had no intention of doing so. The male protagonist angrily told him that he should know how to behave more politely. Even if he was the political officer's cousin, he wouldn't be intimidated. Soojin turned and walked away very coolly. As for Kian, he still didn't give up on finding the mother for the little girl. He went to Juna's apartment to look for more clues. This time, he noticed a teddy bear still in its wrapping. This must be the birthday gift Juna promised to buy for her daughter. Suddenly, the door opened. The neighbor he had met before appeared. She told Kian that she had always heard strange noises in this house a week ago. While talking incessantly, the neighbor suddenly said she had to go answer the phone for a few seconds. After the young policeman heard the sound of something breaking, he rushed over, only to find the neighbor screaming and holding a leather bag, claiming he was the intruder. At that moment, the neighborhood security suddenly appeared and escorted him to the station. It seems this was a trap set for the young policeman, Nguyen Non-da. However, the neighbors acting only fooled the inexperienced police officers. The male protagonist, while in the interrogation room, saw through the woman's act and knew she was faking it to frame him. After a tiring day at work, he took a shower and had a beer to clear his mind. He had to struggle, with worries ranging from work to the helmeted man always lurking to attack him. The male protagonist leaned back in his chair to relax when a drop of water fell on his forehead. The helmeted man was standing on top of him, and before he could react, the man rammed his helmet into his head, causing him to faint. When he woke up, the male protagonist found himself in Juna's bathroom, which was illuminated by strange black lights revealing splattered beard syrup all over the walls and floor. The helmeted man appeared, laughing mockingly at Swan. The police couldn't solve this case. Nam Chin was furious and wanted to punch him, but before he could do anything, he was knocked down to the floor. Finally, the guy wearing the helmet drove away, leaving Nam Chin chasing after him and shouting. He had been ambushed twice that day, and each time his face was bruised and humiliated beyond description. The scene shifts to a luxurious house. It's obvious that the commissioner is very rich. Today is his daughter's birthday party, and the party is held very formally. While greeting guests, he overheard a sentence. The thing is, you can install a hidden camera in the house or in some object to monitor. For example, stuff it inside a teddy bear. Coincidentally, that teddy bear is exactly like Juna's teddy bear. Time rewinds 10 days ago. Commissioner Do was drunk and shouting in front of Juna's motionless body. At this time, she was covered in beard syrup, but he kept shouting and accusing her of filming to blackmail him. Commissioner Do kept talking without knowing that the teddy bear in the room had a hidden camera. Kon-tae, with the help of the male protagonist, mediated the situation. Kyung-tae succeeded with the thuggish police officer in the disciplinary courtroom. He had to apologize to the boy, while Kyung-tae was acquitted of the harassment charge against his neighbor. In addition, he only received a light reprimand for entering a private residence without permission. With his courage, Kyung-tae went to Juna's apartment again. He wanted to give her a teddy bear as a birthday gift. Unfortunately, as soon as the young police officer saw him, the security guard kicked him out and forbade him from coming near. However, luck smiled upon him when the teddy bear was thrown in the yard. That night, he took it to the little girl, but she and her grandmother had moved elsewhere. Upon closer inspection of the teddy bear, he discovered a hidden camera inside. The young police officer hurriedly took the chip home and installed it in his laptop. This time, he was determined not to miss the opportunity to find the truth. While he was anxiously checking the data, the burly police officer broke into his house and threatened him, demanding that he hand over the chip. The young police officer suspected him of harming Juna, so he loudly accused him. The result was that Yong-tae was again. That evil policeman beat him senseless. He tried to swallow the chip, but the thuggish policeman still forced it out. After a while of extremely painful physical impact, Kyung gradually lost consciousness. The thuggish policeman intended to silence him, so he poured gasoline all over the young policeman's apartment. Just one small spark and the young policeman would be gone. Back to our protagonist. He felt nauseous and asked the driver to slow down, but he suddenly realized the driver had disappeared. Instead, the man in the helmet attacked him again. This time, he was even. He said he owed Kyan an apology. After saying that, he dragged him to the rooftop. As soon as the protagonist opened the apartment door, the entire interior was engulfed in flames. This was Kyan-tae's apartment. The protagonist tried to escape, but the man in the helmet wouldn't let him get away. Sujin ran inside, trying to wake his young colleague, but the fire was too big, causing the roof to start collapsing. So the man in the helmet smashed the window and pushed the protagonist towards it. Sujin hugged Kyan-tae, but he really didn't know if he should jump or not. If he jumped, he would be dead, the whole group. So what? Who will take care of them? But the male protagonist didn't need to think much when the gas stove caught fire, launching a giant fireball towards them. All three fell out the window and landed in a car. Luckily, thanks to the elderly people carrying heavy loads, the male protagonist and the young police officer were unharmed. Sujin looked at the man in the helmet and saw that his shoulder was literally on fire. Then he stood up straight, put out the fire with his hands, and laughed. The helmet came off, revealing a young man with an arrogant face and a chilling smile, said to the male protagonist, "It's a pleasure to meet you, Sujin." Looking at the smiling face in front of him, from that moment he knew that the person in front of him was the burden of his life. The consequences of the fiery escape the night before had caused the male protagonist to wake up in a hospital bed. He bewilderedly asked his squinty-eyed colleague, "How did I end up in the hospital?" The squinty-eyed man shook his head and said he didn't know, only that he and Yong-tae had almost died from fire. The squinty-eyed man also said that the young police officer was in critical condition and didn't know when he would wake up. Many rumors suggest that because he investigated Kyt, it angered the boy, causing him to do something foolish. The male protagonist is racking his brains thinking, "Why is so much trouble coming to me? My promotion will be greatly affected if I get into trouble." At a deserted riverbank, the commissioner and the burly policeman are watching a video on a memory card of a teddy bear that the burly policeman stole from Kyt. The video content inside is Juna wishing his daughter a happy birthday. The commissioner laughs and tells his younger brother that they have to resolve this matter discreetly. Yong-tae must have seen his face while stealing the memory card, thinking it was the last important evidence, but there was nothing inside. At work, Swan tried to explain that he had saved his colleague from being burned alive. How the hell is he now being criticized for causing Yong-tae to do something foolish in the house? After hearing this, the police officer in the blue uniform loudly reminded him to stay away from trouble. Swan decided to see a psychologist to relieve his frustration. He had been living peacefully for the past few days, then suddenly encountered this crazy guy who was always lurking to attack him. The doctor told the male protagonist that it might just be his hallucination. He showed the doctor the bruises on his face, saying they were proof that the guy in the helmet existed. But the doctor dismissed it, saying he might have bumped into something while sleeping. The treatment ended without resolving anything. The doctor prescribed some tranquilizers for the male protagonist. The next day, the male protagonist and his teammate, the guy with the squinty eyes, went to Juna's house to investigate. They discovered that KT had visited on the day of the incident. Through the landlord, they learned that KT had earned some money, a large stuffed bear. Due to a search warrant, Nam Chin entered the house to check. When he entered the bathroom, a familiar feeling flooded back. Memories of the helmeted man who carried him here were more real than ever. After a while of searching, Nam Chin, with his squinting eyes, concluded that Kaeyeon must have found evidence in this apartment and was attacked. When Nam Chin passed by a telephone booth, he saw some posters that his daughter Juna had put up to find her mother. A cleaning lady wanted to throw away the posters, but the little girl didn't. This attracted Sujin's attention. He rescued the little girl and took her out for ice cream. Meeting Juna's daughter touched the male protagonist's heart. Hidden from the fact that Kong Tae had tried to help the little girl understand her mother's disappearance, as well as the little girl's resilience in waiting for her mother's return, both reasons combined made him determined to find out the truth to the end. That night, the male protagonist, with his squinting eyes, stayed up all night watching the footage from Juna's apartment building in an effort to find any suspicious means. They saw a truck with pipes. Smoke Swan also said that he had seen a similar vehicle before when his family dog was barking. Then the male protagonist dialed the phone number in the car, but as expected, it was a non-existent number. The two police officers drove out and followed the road the truck had taken. Finally, they saw the truck parked outside a warehouse. However, the truck was locked and the windows were stained yellow. The male protagonist and his teammate entered the warehouse to question the employee there, but he had already escaped on motorcycle. With no other choice, the two officers with squinting eyes, they had to smash the truck window to access the chimney at the back of the vehicle that same night. The tough cop went to meet the crematorium gang. He was furious when he learned that the protagonist had obtained the ashes inside the truck. He placed a thick envelope on the table and demanded that everyone hide. If they were discovered, they would all be dead. The protagonist went to Juna's mother's house to get the DNA of her younger brother to confirm whether the ashes belonged to Juna or not. While Sujin was visiting KT in the hospital, he received a call from the squint-eyed guy at the forensic department who had assigned. He checked and confirmed that the bones in the pile of ashes belonged to Juna. After hearing this news, the male protagonist looked at Kyung Tae in the hospital room and said, "So you were always right." Sujin stopped by his brother's house, joking around with Tit on a date. At that moment, someone delivered pizza. The male protagonist saw the camera mounted on the delivery person's motorcycle helmet. From that, Sujin had an idea that at the time Kyung Tae was being harassed, a delivery person might have passed by and thus discovered who the suspect was. Thinking this, the male protagonist quickly went to the delivery area near the location. The male protagonist, through the delivery man's video footage from the night the young police officer was attacked, the camera recorded images of the burly policeman appearing, connecting the events together. The male protagonist, with his keen eyes, concludes that Conti was harmed by the burly man because he knows who the culprit is, the one who turned into a gold nugget like the people of High Form. The male protagonist directly drives to the police station, arrives there, meets the group of the burly man, and directly asks why he appeared at the male protagonist's house. The two argue for a while, then, the squint-eyed man appeared to accuse him, but with his cunning, he refused to plead guilty. The thuggish man said that a knife was found under the water tank in Kyan's apartment, and fingerprints and the victim's beard syrup were found on the knife. Sujin gritted his teeth and said, only a fool would hide evidence in his apartment. The grumpy policeman smirked and said, there are fools like that. He deliberately said, Kong did something foolish because he was afraid of being punished. After hearing those rambling words, the squint-eyed man couldn't take it anymore and slapped him in the face. The next day at the male protagonist's office earnestly says that Conti is not the culprit, but the bureaucratic boss only cares about the evidence presented before him. Furthermore, under pressure from the commissioner, he can only turn a blind eye to prevent the male protagonist from getting involved in the investigation. The boss says that the wicked commissioner has already reported to the police that he and his cousin, the thug, were together on the night Juna was assaulted, so what is there to doubt? He even throws a stack of documents on a table, including this year's promotion list in which Sujin is being considered. The next day, the male protagonist entered the office with bouquets of flowers decorating his desk. Now he was officially the captain. He felt betrayed because Sujin hadn't clarified Juna's case. When he left work, his ex-girlfriend was waiting in the car. She seemed to have planned a raid on the male protagonist. As soon as he got into the car, the curly-haired girl said there was no reason to deal with anyone. She also revealed that Juna had once provided information to the late police officer Misu. He had even placed a hidden camera in a necklace and given it to Juna. The ex-girlfriend opens her phone to show Sujin the necklace. The male protagonist is too tired, so he kicks the curly-haired girl out of the car and tells her he's no longer involved in this. When he returns home, the elevator suddenly malfunctions and stops. Sujin frantically presses the alarm button to call for help. The elevator lights flash ominously, but there's no response. Just as the male protagonist starts to panic, someone starts prying open the door, making Sujin happy, thinking he's being rescued. It turns out the person prying open the door is the guy in the helmet who always sees the male protagonist. Punching and kicking violently, he kept jumping around the elevator, causing it to shake violently. The male protagonist screamed in fear, telling him to stop, but only a few seconds later, the man in the helmet caused the elevator to collapse amidst the terrified screams of Swan. The male protagonist fainted for a second, and when Swan woke up, he found himself sitting on the back of a motorcycle. At that moment, the man in the helmet, with the alias CA, was driving through the apartment lobby and then speeding into a shopping mall. CA was driving at breakneck speed, no different from a street racer, making Swan curse him as a madman. Suddenly, CA abruptly stopped his motorbike because he saw an old woman crossing the road. He gave her a friendly smile, then CA sped up again. Then CA took him to where the crematorium gang was hiding. While the male protagonist was wetting his pants, he calmly counted each of them one by one, and Swan was hiding behind him. The robbers, seeing someone break in, quickly pulled out sticks and started beating the two guys. The whole room suddenly went into chaos as everyone rushed in and started beating each other up. Swan took advantage of the chaos and quickly ran upstairs to assess the situation. While fleeing, he found Juna's necklace with a hidden camera. The male protagonist quickly put it in his back pocket and escaped by jumping from the second floor. When confronted by CA through the window, he ran away and left him behind. However, CA was doing well alone, using the spilled oil from the overturned barrels to his advantage. In the end, all the thieves were covered in oil, making everyone sticky. That night, the male protagonist took the necklace back to his house. He inserted the memory card into his computer and viewed the main images. Commissioner Do is the one who harmed Juna. However, he closed the phone as if to say he wouldn't reveal his crimes. The next morning, standing on the Sun Bridge, Sun John intended to destroy the evidence by throwing the necklace into the river, but CA appeared and snatched the necklace from him. This time, he took off his helmet and introduced himself properly. CA said he was a hero whose mission was to punish people like trash. Sun John stared at the boy in front of him as if thinking, "Is this guy crazy?" Then with a wink and a wide grin, he climbed over the railing and let himself fall back into the water below. At this moment, the male protagonist was called into the office by his superior. The commissioner wanted to invite everyone to eat. The bureaucratic bosses kept flattering him and even told Swan that the commissioner was the one who helped him get promoted. Swan's face stiffened as he bowed his head in thanks, then he went into the bathroom to wash his face, constantly telling himself to stay alert. Suddenly, a voice rang out, and he reappeared. He smiled enigmatically and told him to. Awaiting the next event, Sujin frantically runs after him and realizes that CA is heading straight towards Commissioner Do. He only sees him shouting his name loudly, then jumping up and delivering a kick to the ugly face of the man. Everything pauses here. Let's review the previous events. Imagine Sujin in KS position, as he was the one who investigated Juna's bathroom using Lumion. He was also the one who defeated the gang when he returned wearing a motorcycle. Currently, the camera focuses on CA's kick, and we see that the one delivering the kick is the male protagonist. We can see that the main character is another personality of Swan, a kind, brave, and fearless version. Now, in front of everyone, the main character keeps slapping the commissioner in the face, accompanied by insults. The other staff members have to pull Swan away for a while before the commissioner can be left alone. After a while, the main character comes to his senses and suddenly realizes his reckless actions. In the 36 stratagems, the best strategy is to run away. Swan decides to turn around and run after him to catch him. The remaining police officers chase after him in a split second. He thought he had caught CA and handcuffed him, but then he himself was the one handcuffed while CA had vanished into thin air. In another development, the commissioner's face darkened as he recalled being humiliated. He applied an ice pack to his temples, his heart filled with suspicion, especially when Sujin called him a professional gold shaver. Meanwhile, the male protagonist called the curly-haired girl to help him remove the handcuffs. She was extremely surprised by his physical actions against the villain. Helpless, Sujin had to explain that he had found Juna's necklace, which had been recorded by a camera. Scene: she was assaulted by the commissioner. Hearing this, the ex-girlfriend desperately wanted to see the video, but the male protagonist lied, saying the necklace was lost and it was useless. Finally, he asked her to drive him home urgently because staying at work like this would sooner or later lead to him being scolded for his political maneuvering. However, when they got home, they couldn't enter through the main road because the police had sent someone to investigate whether Swan had returned home or not. With no other option, the curly-haired girl and the male protagonist could only use their phone flashlights to enter the ex-girlfriend house. They found a safe inside. The male protagonist excitedly opened his wardrobe and was left speechless when he saw CA's helmet, gloves, and motorcycle keys. Not only that, there was also a box of love mementos from Sujin and his ex-girlfriend. The girl with the curly hair was surprised and couldn't understand why he still kept these old things. Just then, The police raided the place, so the two had to hide in the wardrobe to escape. A little later, the police officers withdrew. The male protagonist and his ex-girlfriend breathed a sigh of relief. They both drove to the bridge where CA had jumped off with the necklace. The girl with the curly hair blamed everything on them. This mess is because the male protagonist doesn't care about Juna's case. He angrily asserts that he cares more about advancing his career. A few minutes later, Swan has to go down to the riverbank to take off his shirt to find the necklace. He frantically jumps into the river, but ends up soaking wet and trembling. The male protagonist whimpers, saying his life is over, there's nothing left to save. The next day, the boss opens the garage door and finds the male protagonist kneeling in front of it. He shows him the video from the necklace to expose the crimes of Commissioner Du. The boss carefully reviewed the video and said that the evidence was not convincing enough because the video quality was poor, so the commissioner could argue that it wasn't him. The male protagonist wholeheartedly tried to convince the boss, saying, "Trust me. I believe I can find enough evidence to convict him. If this case succeeds, it will bring great benefits to the entire department, and it will also benefit the boss." The boss considered for a while and agreed to the protagonist's proposal. Not only that, he also reported their conversation to the commissioner, assuring him that it was a win-win situation, or they would succeed and the commissioner would be happy. The pill is credited, but if it fails, the male protagonist will take full responsibility and leave the profession. The male protagonist goes to find a doctor to tell him about the case, fearing that it's a deranged personality in his body that he doesn't know about. The doctor tells him that he might have been haunted or experienced a major shock, causing mental instability. He encourages him to dance and live positively. He also gives him a bottle of tranquilizers, saying that when the person appears, he should take a few pills and chant a spell. This is real, this person is fake. As soon as he gets into the car, the person will appear. The male protagonist hastily takes the pills. The medicine and incantations, like Tang Monk, immediately took effect, making the boy disappear, but even the medicine has its limits. That night, while Swan was sound asleep in bed, the boy reappeared in pink pajamas, looking like a flamboyant male character. The male protagonist continued to take the medicine, hoping the boy would disappear, but this time he didn't. He snatched the pills from the male protagonist and stuffed them all into his mouth. A moment later, he felt dizzy and fell onto the bed, unconscious. The next morning, his ex-girlfriend kept knocking on the male protagonist's door, but he wasn't there. Someone opened the door and she tried entering using her birthday as the password. The result was spot on, surprising her so much that she only woke up later. She saw her hair, and even though she had already complained that they had broken up, he still used her birthday as the house password. Not only that, she suspected he had found the necklace but was hiding it. Knowing he couldn't hide it from this shrew, Sujin showed her the video. After watching it, she couldn't hide her anger, but the male lead warned her not to get agitated because Commissioner Du wasn't someone to be trifled with. In another development, Commissioner Du met someone. The short-haired woman, surnamed Yong, also known as Boss Yong, complained to her in the restaurant that the police knew what had happened to Juna, but Boss Yong didn't care and told her to handle it herself. The commissioner was speechless and couldn't argue, so he took out a package of cash and demanded that she deal with someone for him before leaving. He lingered and warned her, "You have to do everything well." Boss Yong looked disdainfully at the commissioner as he left. He thought threatening her was easy, but that day, troublesome things started happening. The incident happened to the male protagonist's family. Specifically, the crematorium group found a list of items that Swan's brother was selling online from the previous encounter. He had brought the entire treasure chest home, which his brother had hidden behind the shop and was now selling on the black market. The male protagonist's brother may look naive, but is actually a real businessman. As a result, those people tracked down the address of the male protagonist's family's pizza shop and planned to kidnap him. They kidnapped Swan's brother and hung him upside down on a forklift while calling the male protagonist from his brother's phone. Recognizing their voices, Swan immediately ran towards Han. He secretly observed them through the iron door, but one of the crematorium crew members saw him and shouted loudly. Swan panicked and ran away. Finally, he hid in a supermarket. He crouched behind a shelf and begged the benevolent CA to appear and save him. While waiting, he tried his best to fight them, but it was no use because they were too numerous. He continuously used various items from the shelves. Fortunately, CA appeared and dealt with them. He grabbed the sword with. The whole group retaliated in a short while. Tan Tac was so scared he didn't dare chase the male protagonist anymore. A little later, the curly-haired girl arrived and handcuffed the leader. Seeing the male protagonist's injured hand, she quickly bandaged it. At this moment, the singer behind her looked at her with a loving gaze. Then, he and the curly-haired girl quickly ran to his brother to rescue the poor innocent brother. It was the first time he had been hung upside down. He was so scared. The next day, Swan and the squint-eyed guy went to find the burly policeman. When their father asked again, they found that he had already left. It seemed as if someone had controlled his breath until he went to meet the King of Hell. It turned out that the person Commissioner Duo Bosyong dealt with was the tough police officer. He wanted to eliminate the person who covered up the evidence. A series of misfortunes befell Swan when his office was suddenly inspected, and his family was harassed by gangsters. This seemed like a mild punishment that Commissioner Duo gave him. Then he called him to a nightclub, his own private place of debauchery. For the first time, Swan knew what humiliation was. He knelt down, he begged him to spare his family, while the cruel commissioner said that he had made a big mistake and had to pay the price. He even played the Juna birthday greeting video for him, saying that if he wanted any evidence, he should use this video. The male protagonist watched the video with a heavy heart. He ran to the bathroom and vomited violently. Suddenly, his phone rang. He received a call from KT Sujin. He was extremely shocked to receive a call from him. It turned out that 2 hours before the brutal policeman went to meet the King of Hell, he had intended to inject himself with poison to handle the situation but failed because someone was standing outside the door bothering him. By the time he returned, the young police officer had already escaped without him noticing. The thugs group split up to search for him, while he got into his car and was restrained by K-Yon-T with a syringe. The thug asked, "Are you the one who handled Juna?" But he said no. The person who handled the girl was Commissioner K-Yon-T threatened him, demanding proof. The thug police officer reluctantly agreed. He drove to a GM office and called an employee to bring a bag of belongings. He took out a voice recorder from his pocket and recorded all the criminal acts of the evil commissioner. The young police officer, holding the evidence in his hand, quickly physically assaulted the thug's nose and then got out of the car and fled. After successfully escaping, the first person he thought of was the male protagonist. He hoped that he could help him catch the real culprit. In the V-side, after hearing what he said, he hurriedly went outside. Little did he know that he would run into the commissioner in the restroom. The commissioner said, "Do you have an appointment?" Then he said, "Go ahead and don't think about it." The fake fox. It was known that Kyong-T had appeared and wanted to meet the male protagonist, and from there a plan to catch the evil commissioner was put into action. First, the male protagonist arranged to meet KT on a deserted road and then drag him to a secluded apartment. Next, he and the young police officer collaborated to stage a play of colleagues betraying each other. Sujin called the commissioner so that he could catch Kyong-T, but the commissioner didn't know it was a trap. The young police officer pretended to be betrayed and was in pain, not resisting. At this point, the commissioner also revealed his evil nature, constantly harassing him. He was beaten so badly that his whole body was bruised in just a few minutes. Hearing his colleague being beaten, the squinting eyes hurt, and he wanted to rush in, but the girl with the long hair stopped him and said he had to wait until the commissioner confessed. Even though he was physically assaulted to the point of dripping strawberry syrup, he still grabbed his leg and said that he was the one who handled the person. This was a fatal blow, and the cruel commissioner yelled about how he had handled Juna. The police team outside were just waiting for this sentence to immediately rush in and arrest the person inside. The male protagonist used a strong kick to the guy. The damn commissioner was beaten up by the male protagonist. His eyes widened in surprise. Then he scrambled to his feet and ran away quickly. Swan chased after him, but he couldn't touch him because he had a very skilled martial arts assistant by his side. Soon, the male protagonist was beaten black and blue by the assistant. Whenever Swan did something good but encountered difficulties, the assistant would appear and beat him to a pulp. It seemed that whenever Swan did something good but encountered difficulties, the assistant would appear and help him. Swan chased after the commissioner, and he was cornered against the wall. He said, "Take this punch from me for everything." Then he threw a powerful punch to the face of the evil commissioner, sending him tumbling to the ground. The case was a resounding success. The whole team caught the commissioner. The squinting-eyed man happily told the curly-haired girl that the male protagonist had become better, working righteously like a real police officer. Remembering how he solved the case and caught the culprit, the political commissioner at the police station where the male protagonist worked, he was praised and featured on the news. In an instant, he became a hero in everyone's eyes. Seeing him, he smiled broadly and said, "Now, whatever you do, I find it pleasing to the eye." He thought Sujin's life would get better, but it didn't. Because of the ways he started to disrupt his life, he appeared more frequently, as if to tease him. Not only that, he also took the secret bribe money that Sujin had been hiding for so long and donated it all to the youth care center. When the male protagonist found out about this, he was speechless and couldn't believe it because he hadn't even finished supporting his family yet, so how could he donate anything? He wanted to get the money back, but he couldn't because the money is gone, so how can it be returned? At this moment, CA appears, and the two start arguing on the rooftop of the youth camp. CA says, "What's so great about those bribes? Instead, they should be donated to the National Fund to train the future generations of the country." To make it more convincing, he even threatens to push him down again. Soojin can only helplessly accept it because this is his other personality, so there's no way to make it disappear. The male lead also suggests to CA, "How about we allocate our time? Living like that, everything will be all right." Looking at CA smile, Swan wanted to physically assault him severely. The two of them just kept playing games at the park, going to the bathroom, and even showering in the same room. If you looked at them, you'd think they were close brothers. Another thing is that C is extremely concerned about Soojin's ex-girlfriend. He always mentions her in the gentlest tone. He even used the male protagonist's phone to call and check on her. Although Commissioner Du has been arrested, the organization behind him is still a mystery. He tries to hire a lawyer to get bail early, but there has been no positive response recently. While in prison, the commissioner was attacked by a stranger who stabbed him twice in the stomach. Because of this, the serious crime unit was in a frenzy, especially the curly-haired woman. She didn't want the culprit, whom they had worked so hard to catch, to be silenced. She proposed to her superiors that the commissioner be transferred to a different prison, and it was approved. That night, on the way to escorting the evil commissioner to the new prison, the prisoner transport vehicle suddenly revved its engine and stopped abruptly. A man jumped onto the front of the vehicle, blocking everyone's way. The commissioner started shouting. Screaming in panic distracted everyone, making them not notice the truck speeding towards them. The strong collision caused the prisoner transport vehicle to lose momentum and roll down slope. The evil commissioner regained consciousness, but he screamed when he encountered a stranger. The stranger repeatedly stabbed the commissioner, then used a similar method to turn the police officer, her subordinate with the messy hair, into gold. She was injured and couldn't do anything. She could only watch helplessly as the man with the disheveled hair turned into gold. A few days later, the curly-haired girl sat listlessly in the interrogation room because she was the only survivor of the serious accident that prompted the police to investigate immediately. She heard a commotion outside. The male protagonist and the singer were arguing again. The singer was very worried about the girl with the curly hair. Knowing she couldn't see him, the singer put his hand on the glass and told her that he would help her clear her name. The male protagonist sighed at the singer's sentimentality and told her to calm down. It wasn't that serious. The singer angrily told the male protagonist that he had to save the girl with the curly hair if he could prove her innocence. Then he will disappear. As the captain, SUU John was ordered to interrogate his ex-girlfriend. Seeing her distraught face with wounds on her face, the male protagonist felt a little sympathy. However, he still firmly asked her uncomfortable questions such as her family's bankruptcy a year ago. Currently, she needs money to pay off debts, so the crime might be a hidden motive. The curly-haired girl was angry that SUU was interrogating her so harshly. She requested to change interrogators. However, the male protagonist seriously told her that only he could help her. The wronged man asked her to trust him and follow his guidance. In another place, Boss Young's men were busy producing mysterious candies in the form of eye-shaped candies. She just walked in. Inside, everyone immediately respectfully greeted the henchmen who were harassing a man until his beard dripped with syrup, suspecting him of having absconded with the drugs. A lot of mysterious candies were stolen right under their noses. Boss Young's driver believed that the permanent departure of Commissioner Du was due to someone's interference. The short-haired woman ordered the withdrawal of the mysterious candy product out of the market. If anyone sells, they'll be immediately put on an altar to admire naked chickens. Back to the male protagonist, he and his teammate, the squint-eyed guy, are pondering the case file of the curly-haired girl. At this moment, the guy next to him keeps rambling on, saying that the curly-haired girl is innocent. After a while of analysis, they suspect that the curly-haired girl's team must have a spy who revealed the time and route of the transport. The top suspect is Yong, who was previously accused of accepting bribes. Meanwhile, the curly-haired girl is at home lost in thought. The male protagonist's question is why the gold-burning professional let her live. Currently, there is only one photo of the guy who was run over by a truck, the only witness in this case, but his face has been deliberately obscured. CA looks closely at the photo, then takes the male protagonist's phone and takes a picture. After that, she rushes out of the room and takes Swan to a bar. The reason is that CA saw the witness wearing a wristband from this bar. The male protagonist is initially very happy, thinking CA is doing a good deed, until he realizes this is the place where CA went to eat the boss's ledger even though Sue had returned it. but the boss still held a grudge and demanded compensation for the previous physical assault. Actually, the one who assaulted the boss was CA, not the male protagonist. CA stood beside him, smirking. He asked Swan for permission to physically assault the club owner with a punch. The male protagonist sighed and told the boss to assault him however he wanted. In the end, he took the full force of the physical assault from the old boss and successfully obtained the list of recently visited customers outside. They clashed with the girl with the long hair, even though she knew the witness wearing a leash was a customer. This place should be investigated. Inside the car, the male protagonist grumbles to his ex-girlfriend that personally investigating will make her more suspicious. The next day, the male protagonist begins investigating the people on Club's list, matching the age and description of the witness when they meet the first potential suspect. The girl grabs the boy's hand in front of them and holds up a picture to compare. This makes the male protagonist and the girl with the hair feel strange, but that doesn't stop the girl from asking the boys to line up and cover their faces like in the last picture. The whole team, a witness was found. However, the young man insisted he saw nothing, even when the curly-haired girl begged him to find out about the permanent departure for her juniors. She grabbed his shirt and threatened him. The curly-haired girl quickly stopped him. This caused the witness to quickly flee. The next day, while the male protagonist was dozing off at his desk, he was startled awake by K-Yon, who had been transferred to his team. The young police officer had recovered and become much more mature after a few months. He was always grateful and thought Sujin was a good person, so he was very happy when was on the same team as him. Even the singer appeared to grin at Conti, while on this side, continuous incidents happened to the girl with the drooping hair. Right after attending the funeral of a junior colleague, she returned home, but her house was full of police. They discovered a mysterious stash of candy and cash inside. Swan received the news and immediately rushed to his ex-girlfriend's house. Seeing her pained and panicked by the misunderstanding, the male protagonist's heart ached. He held her hand to comfort her, but also took her handcuffs to take her to the police station for investigation. Kyu Jeon and the squinting man asked questions too. The girl with the curly hair loudly wondered if she had long been the target of those crazy people. The guy with the squinting eyes asked, "Could anyone in your team be a spy?" But the girl with the curly hair shook her head, saying she didn't suspect anyone. She completely trusted Captain Park and her teammates, even though Soo Jeon pointed out that the Captain Park she respected hadn't done anything to help her. Min Hone mentioned Captain Park, saying that he was indeed a little suspicious. Firstly, he had made a deal with Commissioner Du before he was arrested. The business dealings of Boss Yong involved transporting mysterious candy. Captain Park and Jong Ji-yu staged a case of murder and then blamed the girl with the flowing hair at the city library. The witness to the murder was trying to study, but he was restless and couldn't stop thinking about the incident. The fear of being followed made him run as if chased by a ghost and crashed into Nuya Nam Chin. He tried his best to persuade and question the witness that night. What did he say? But the witness remained stubborn and refused to speak, even though he was very scared. The police reported that they had found the escape route of the manhunt on security camera footage. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Swan urged the witness to tell everything he had seen so they could catch the culprit. The witness finally told the truth. That night he saw the manhunt, a man with long, unkempt hair, climb out of the car, then he grabbed him and threatened him not to say anything. Because he was too scared, the witness did not dare report to the police or tell anyone. Swan got this information and told Kong to keep a close eye on him. He mentioned the manhunt and that he went to a riverbank too, meeting the partner to buy the mysterious candy, which was also the same medicine they had stolen. It was unfortunate for him that the buyer turned out to be Boss Yon's driver. The driver immediately tried to drown the long-haired man in the river to kill him, but a gun was pointed at the driver's head. It was Captain Park. He requested to meet Boss Yong to explain at the short-haired woman's office. He said that the sale of mysterious candy should be open to both sides, but she forbade other parties from trading, which was not good. Furthermore, Captain Park emphasized that he had transformed. The Gold Commissioner was trying to ensure the organization's secrecy. Boss Yon sat and listened, but those persuasive words had no effect on her. Returning to the journey to find justice, Nam Chin and his teammates found the getaway ambulance of the gold carjacking specialist abandoned in a junkyard. Although there were no security cameras in the area, Yon thought he would ask about the black boxes of some other abandoned cars. Sujin and CA went to the abandoned junkyard where CA easily jumped over the gate. Inside, they found a mysterious bag of candy, but immediately, that is, the long-haired, spiky-haired guy and his accomplices caught him. He seemed a little panicked but immediately rushed into battle with the mysterious gang. Soon, both the male protagonist and the girl were fighting side by side as a team, taking down the whole gang of criminals. However, unfortunately for Swan, he was secretly attacked by the guy with the wig. He used a syringe to inject him in the neck, causing him to collapse. When the male protagonist woke up, he was taped to a chair. The traitorous girl with the long hair was also present. While Yong was smiling, Mai, the person handling the situation, was shot in the shoulder by Captain Park. The reason he shot him because in a flashback scene, Captain Park told Boss Yong that she asked him to deal with anyone who stole medicine from her warehouse, and the person who stole the medicine was Jong. Captain Park wanted to settle it quickly, so he told the long-haired guy to shoot Jong. However, he trembled and couldn't shoot properly. After a while, the male protagonist had the fried piece of food removed from his mouth. He screamed and begged Captain Park to spare him when the man pointed the gun at his head. If Captain Park spared his life this time, he would pretend he didn't know anything. Captain Park, seeing how obedient Sujin was satisfied and agreed to release him to protect his own life. The male protagonist had created a fake scene according to Captain Park's arrangement. The long-haired, shaggy-haired man was the one who shot Jang-gu and was also the ringleader in the mysterious candy trafficking. After the meeting ended and Sujin reached the door, he was dragged to the rooftop by CA. CA scolded him, "Why did you act like that? How could you compromise with evil?" Then the two of them beat each other up and criticized each other. After a while of beating each other up and making strawberry syrup drip, the male protagonist, he returns to the office to review the previous case files, especially the death of police officer Misu. Captain Park said that Minsu fell first, then the man who handled the body, but the position of a banner found wrapped around their bodies suggests the opposite. The male protagonist goes to the building where the murder occurred and replays the scene. He imagines that Captain Park shot the mysterious candy dealer, causing him to fall first, then Minsu ran up and pushed him down, and finally he took a piece of glass and used it to create. Sujin suddenly realized that everything he accused Captain Park of during the previous interrogation was actually true. At this moment, Daisy suddenly appeared with a softer attitude and asked what he would do next. Sujin smiled confidently and said he would reopen Minsu's case and eliminate Captain Park. Finally, the two personalities looked at each other happily and held hands, showing their unity. Returning to the timeline 2 months earlier, Sujin and his boss went to karaoke with a wealthy man. It turned out that the man was the one the team. The chief accused the male protagonist of using mysterious candy. The male protagonist boasted that he would help him solve the problem while drunk. Swan staggered into the hallway. Suddenly, he received a call. The voice on the other end told him that Sang-ho didn't handle Misu and that he had evidence to prove it. However, Swan was too drunk to pay attention to the call. Returning to the present, Swan's case was that he ignored the call. If he had been more attentive, Captain Park wouldn't have been able to do all this. It's so bad that Swan nodded apologetically because he thought it was a joke at the time and didn't consider it carefully. Then the two started going to Sang-ho's apartment to investigate. The male protagonist paid special attention to Sang-ho's student registration documents for Mo University. At the KTE police station, the squint-eyed man noticed something strange in the video recorded from the funeral of the recently deceased young police officer. Jang-gu was absent at the exact time the curly-haired girl's house was broken into, meaning he might have planted a mysterious candy and been set up. The male protagonist finds an advertisement for a mysterious candy addiction treatment center at Sang-ho's house. Without thinking much, the male protagonist rushes to the center and is told by the receptionist that Sang-ho is not one of their patients. But she realizes he is a friend of a young man named Hu-jin. According to what they say, Sang-ho always helps Hu-jin and tries to persuade him to give up mysterious candy. The receptionist tells the male protagonist that he can find Hu-jin at the junkyard, which is where mysterious candy enthusiasts gather. He heard the information. This time, CA and Sujin immediately set off to investigate. First, they used binoculars to observe, but this method was ineffective because they couldn't see anyone inside clearly. So CA suggested that the male protagonist disguise himself as a player to infiltrate the place, because you can't catch a tiger without entering its den. Finally, the male protagonist had to abandon his luxurious suit and put on ragged, dirty clothes to resemble the mysterious candy enthusiast. Sujin then cautiously walked into the junkyard. Seeing strangers approaching, the mysterious candy enthusiast, immediately, he became wary of the man who wanted to check if the protagonist was a cop. He told him to hold out his hand so he could see if there were any injection marks. After checking and finding nothing suspicious, he infiltrated the scrapyard. There, he saw a car shaking. It was Jin, trembling from a shock of the drug. The protagonist quickly asked him if he knew anything about gasoline, and this name alerted the guy who was passionate about mysterious candy. The protagonist quickly pushed Jin out in a cart. Here, he and the protagonist clashed with a gang of mysterious candy dealers. Again, however, with the help of the police, he successfully brought the drug-addicted boy out of the hammock, the important witness on his back. Then he went to the office of the quack psychiatrist. He tried to use this space to interrogate Hu Jin. Unfortunately, because of his addiction to the mysterious candy, his mood was extremely unstable. In his memory, Hu Jin had informed the police about going to report this, which was like trying to harm him forever. Hu Jin blamed himself and started scratching. The male protagonist and the doctor quickly calmed him down, and when Jin calmed down, Gante explained that such psychotic episodes caused by medication would eventually lead to his death. Meanwhile, Captain Park was extremely angry when he heard the long-haired, shaggy-haired man say that Sujin had gone to the junkyard. He thought about intimidating the shaggy-haired woman in prison to threaten the male protagonist. Sure enough, on that very day, the shaggy-haired woman in the women's prison was held back by 2 female prisoners. A fat woman used a small knife to lightly slash the shaggy-haired woman's face when she knew her ex-girlfriend. Injured in prison, the male protagonist storms into the chief's office to confront him. The traitor nonchalantly says that Sujin betrayed him first by digging into Minu's case. Then he threatens to harm innocent people around the male protagonist if he continues to overstep the line. Despite being threatened, Sujin is not afraid at all. He says the chief wouldn't dare deal with her. If the traitor does anything to the curly-haired girl, he himself can't help the chief escape punishment. In another development, Kyong Tae and the squint-eyed man go to the junkyard where the car, Jong's car, was abandoned because they realized the curly-haired girl's stolen belongings were still in Yong's car. While they were looking inside the car, the squint-eyed guy was attacked from behind by a stranger who took his wallet. The young police officer immediately chased after him. With his youthful strength, Kong Tae handcuffed the thief, who was also the one who stole Hui Trung's curly-haired girl's wallet from Jong's car. This was the evidence they needed to prove the break-in was staged, thus exonerating the curly-haired girl. Su Jian and CA were both excitedly waiting for their loved one to be released. The moment the curly-haired girl appeared and smiled, CA's eyes almost popped out. On the drive home, the curly-haired girl hypothesized that those who tried to harm her in the detention center were threatening others because they didn't deal with her or say anything to her. The male protagonist decided to tell his ex-girlfriend the truth about everything that had happened. He pulled the car over to the side of the road and said that the mastermind behind everything was Captain Park, the captain she had respected for so long. The curly-haired guy was wrong. When the curly-haired girl, who had turned golden-haired, learned of this news, she fell into a speechless state. She couldn't believe what the male protagonist said. Sujin took her home, and then received a call from the therapist informing him that Jin had disappeared. The male protagonist, upon receiving the news, rushed to find the mysterious candy-loving boy. At that moment, he suddenly received a call from Jin, who asked if he could prove Sang-ho's innocence by finding the person who provided the information and called Sujin that night. Not worried about Hak Jin's safety, the male protagonist insisted that they should meet, but the stubborn, mysterious candy-obsessed boy still wanted to go find the informant himself in a dark alley. Jin met Chanky, a subordinate of Captain Park. He asked Chanky if he was the informant for the male protagonist. However, what we see next is the male protagonist approaching the crime scene in a distant field. Hak Jin's body lay under a tree. He had passed away forever due to an overdose. Night fell. Su Jin questioned Chanky about the identity of the informant regarding Minsu's death that night. He suspected Chanky was the one who dealt with Hu Jin, but Chanky denied it. After hearing this, Su Jin immediately gave Chen an ultimatum. First, he must hand over evidence proving Chanky's innocence and confess his actions. Second, he must hand over the male lead to Captain Park. Su Jin played a psychological game, targeting Chen's morale to make him waver. He himself was close to Minsu, yet he remained silent in the case. This horror. Chanky drinks alone in a bar, sadly looking at his bottle of whiskey, a gift from Minsu. He recalls memories of Minsu paying off his family's debts. A wave of guilt and remorse washes over him. Finally, Chanky calls Swan to ask if he's confident he can catch Captain Park. After hearing the answer, Chanky gets into a taxi to meet Swan at the place where Missu's memorial tablet is kept. Swan is being followed by Boss Young's driver. Because of this, Captain Park finds out. Chanky intends to betray and confesses to Sujin. In another development at the curly-haired girl's house, a little girl rings the doorbell saying that the family has just moved in and wants to give her some delicious cake. The innocent curly-haired girl opens the door and is eventually kidnapped by a gang of thugs. Returning to Chanky, he sees the old traitor appear. He knows something bad has happened and tries to run away, but Captain Park quickly fires a warning shot and then threatens him, forcing Chanky to surrender. He has no choice but to give his phone to the old traitor. The video shows images. Captain North kicked Minsu down the railing, killing him instantly. The old gang leader watched the video and laughed, then kept harassing Chan Ki as if to vent his anger. Just then, Sujin appeared in time to deal with him. Thanks to his strength, He rushed in and took down the treacherous gang leader. He punched him hard in the face until his face was smeared with strawberry syrup. The male lead intended to throw a few more punches to vent his anger, but the gang leader revealed to him that the curly-haired girl was in danger. Because of this, he didn't attack the damn gang leader anymore, but unexpectedly Chanky attacked him from behind and destroyed the phone. Swan drove like a madman to the junkyard, crashing into the truck where the curly-haired girl was lying unconscious. Just as he was about to carry the girl out, the gang leader's henchman locked the door, trapping them both inside. Then he started driving the truck, which had a burning coal briquette inside. If they didn't get out in time, they would surely die there. Determined to get out, CA continued to kick the door open and rushed in. Swan, having lost hope, was almost fainting until CA, calling him an idiot, stimulated the male protagonist to wake up, and all three of them used all their strength to smash the door. They kicked the truck door until it burst open. The curly-haired girl and the male protagonist used their remaining strength to cling to the door to survive. The driver saw them in the rearview mirror, so he stopped the car to check the back, and as a result, he was caught by Swan and CA. The male protagonist angrily asked where the truck was going, and the driver said it was going towards the lake. After hearing this, the male protagonist and his ex-girlfriend drove to where the driver was. The driver said it turned out this was a newly dug giant grave to bury the two of them. Swan felt agitated and drove recklessly, destroying surrounding objects. At this moment, the police team arrived and looked at the male protagonist and the curly-haired girl as if they had lost their minds. Shortly after, at the male protagonist's family's pizza shop, the curly-haired girl talked about the clue she found. Boss Yong had business dealings with the Russians. In addition, Kyan realized her driver was involved when they arrested Commissioner Du. However, all of this is just speculation. The male protagonist said there is one person who can confirm it, the long-haired, shaggy-haired guy who is inside. Swan and the curly-haired girl went to the prison to meet him and find the answer here. Swan kept taunting lie about the relationship between him and Captain Park. He said that the old man was just using him. So if he confessed everything, the police would give him a chance to get revenge. The curly-haired girl held up a picture and asked who produced the mysterious eye-shaped candy. As expected, the guy named Bomb pointed to Boss Yong's driver. The whole group searched for clues about Kang's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Swan drove to the location. Kang Wai then entertained himself by singing, was very happy to have more opportunities to meet the curly-haired girl lately. This annoyed the male protagonist so much that he almost crashed into a truck. Luckily, he realized the truck driver was one of the driver's men. He quickly turned his car around and followed the truck to a warehouse. This was a place where tension often arose. He suggested hiding in another delivery truck, and the two of them climbed into the truck to see if they could find anything. The truck driver finished loading the goods, closed the door, and drove away, unaware of the male protagonist and his second personality is trapped inside, squeezed between boxes. Sujin and CA try to figure out what to do with the rapidly rising temperature. CA laughs, takes off his outer layer of clothing and gulps down a bottle of water. Although Sujin's stomach is full of water and he feels the urge to go to the bathroom, finally the truck arrives at the forest point. Sujin jumps out, but CA stays behind after finding a box of Boss Yong's medicine. That night, the entire police team raided the warehouse, causing the driver Kang to smash his computer before going outside and leaving. The squinting man saw the criminal intending to escape, so they fed each other onions with Kang. Unfortunately, he injured him. Luckily, the male protagonist arrived just in time to rescue his close colleague. But when he and Kang faced each other, Kang extended his hand and dropped the knife. He even whispered, "Long time no see," in Russian, then obediently allowed himself to be captured. The male protagonist quickly took Kang into the room for questioning. But the driver's attitude was extremely rude. He remained silent and smirked. The male protagonist was not discouraged. He said he would find the person behind it at all costs, no matter what. Whether he confessed or not, suddenly Kang's face turned pale, his whole body began to tremble. The police realized Kang had the intention to do something, so they quickly held him tightly. Immediately afterwards, Team Leader Park entered and announced that his team would take over the investigation. This had been approved by the superiors, so the protagonist's team had to watch helplessly as the old team leader betrayed and stole the important suspect. When Team Leader Park returned to his office, he found a package containing bags of mysterious candy with red-eye labels. It turned out, this is Boss Yong's summons for them to meet in a secluded place. Captain Park praised the short-haired girl for being decisive in getting Kang arrested, and he also advised her not to act rashly selling drugs in the future. However, Boss Yong said the old gang leader had to compensate. She wanted to get back the mysterious candies that the police had seized. The old gang leader's eyes widened when he heard this request because it was completely beyond his reach. That night, The old gang leader betrayed them, and Chan Ki decided to steal the mysterious candies that the police had seized, while the curly-haired girl followed them. Knowing that his ex-girlfriend was acting rashly, the male protagonist and KT quickly warned her not to act until they arrived. However, the curly-haired girl still couldn't calm down when she saw the two traders approaching and intending to illegally take the mysterious candy. She pulled out a gun to warn her two former colleagues in front of her, but the team leader knew his employees too well. He challenged her, saying, "If you dare shoot me, go ahead and send me to heaven." Not only that, Captain Park also took Chan Ki hostage to threaten the curly-haired girl, preventing her from attacking him. Luckily, the male protagonist arrived in time to distract them. The gang leader pushed Chan Ki aside, then climbed into a car and fled. The male protagonist immediately chased after them. The two cars chased each other on the highway, but Sujin's car still lost sight of him. The gang leader called Boss Yong to suggest a new meeting place, and finally he chose the building where he had cremated his colleague Mew. On the way to find Captain North, the male protagonist and KT discovered a cut-up traffic barrier next to a sign, while the young police officer prevented Boss's men from escaping. Yong, the male protagonist, followed the old gang leader into the building and went to the top floor today. Swan swore to capture him, but while walking, he was attacked from behind by Captain North, who was behind a pillar. Swan knew the old man would try something, so he put on a bulletproof vest and waited until Captain North turned his back before counterattacking and pinning him to the ground. Captain Park tried to fight back, but the male protagonist gained the upper hand. Swan unleashed a series of punches directly at the face of the treacherous gang leader, seemingly defeating Captain Park, but the male protagonist was completely unaware that he still had a gun. Captain Park quickly turned around and attacked Sujin's face and pointed the gun at him. Just as Captain Park was about to shoot the male protagonist, he was shot by someone else. The gang leader staggered and fell towards Lanka. The male protagonist rushed to save him by grabbing the money bag. The bag ripped, causing the bills to fly like confetti, and the gang leader still tried to catch them in vain. Seeing this, the male protagonist and the girl with the long hair struggled to grab the old man's hand to pull him up. Sujin couldn't help but scream because of the few coins. How can you use this money to deal with your colleagues? Then he kept cursing the treacherous team leader. After all the efforts, the girl with the hair finally handcuffed Captain Park and handed him over to the police. As for Chan Ki, he confessed everything and finally could sleep peacefully and feel less guilty. In the interrogation room, Swan asked Captain Park why he had become so corrupt. The team leader, with an indifferent face, said that the male protagonist and he were the same kind of people. They only cared about achieving their goals and benefits, not the truth. Swan knew he was being teased, but he calmly told Captain Park that he had behaved wrongly in the past. However, he is different now. The rest of the team leader was about to leave forever, only thinking about money. He warned the old team leader to cooperate to get a reduced sentence. Otherwise, he would be locked up in prison. After solving the case and catching the big fish, Captain North, everyone in the office was happy and cheerful. The relationship between the male protagonist and the curly-haired girl also improved. The two sworn enemies fell in love again and solved the case together. Everything sounds good. How wonderful. One evening, the male protagonist came to dinner with his mother and older brother. His mother was very worried about his health. However, when Sujin mentioned whether it would be okay if he quit his job and worked at a pizza shop, his mother immediately objected and kicked him out. However, the protagonist's wish for a leisurely life was dashed when a flood of water flowed from his pizza shop all night, causing the building to be flooded. The landlord demanded an exorbitant price for the damage caused by the flood, so Sujin had to beg his boss to let him continue working there. The boss agreed on one condition. The male protagonist had to prove that he was still healthy enough to do his current job in another place, specifically a vehicle transporting the victim. The driver, Kang, had turned into a golden guard and climbed out. At this moment, his face was like that of a madman. He was a pervert who harmed others. Could it be that Boss Yong still had an insider to help him escape? He went to the new therapist's office. This doctor had a completely different demeanor from the quack doctor he usually met. The male protagonist didn't like meeting the new doctor to share his thoughts. This therapist asks Sujin questions that make him feel stressed. For example, about being forced to receive injections or having considered releasing Captain Park. It seems he wants Sujin to reveal his deepest secrets and evil thoughts. While under hypnosis, Sujin returns to the hallway with many strange doors, but this time the male protagonist remembers his birth name, Jaehui. He recalls being tortured to the point where he had to push the man to the ground and escape, but there is one thing that he couldn't remember. He couldn't remember the time before his father passed away. Sujin ran down the hallway until the pain in his chest forced him to stop. He only saw CA slowly approaching him with an extremely confused expression in his memory hallway. The male protagonist recoiled, tormented by moments of the past. CA approached, frowning sympathetically, and extended his hand for the male protagonist to take. On the drive home, CA appeared in the male protagonist's car, reassuring him that things couldn't be that bad. Sujin asked CA if he remembered anything before or after his father's eternal departure. But he shook his head and said he didn't know, and all he talked about was the girl with curly hair. Hearing this, the male protagonist's face flushed slightly as he thought of the kiss with the girl with curly hair. Last night, the scene shifted to the police station. A high school girl wearing a yellow raincoat came to report that she had turned her father into gold. Her face was bruised and had many physical injuries. After giving her statement, she collapsed to the floor unconscious. Next to her face-down body was a mysterious packet of candy. This familiar girl, named Waidu, a female student, was humiliated by her own father in front of a female police officer. The girl, humiliated by her father, said she didn't remember anything and didn't know why she had a mysterious package of candy in her hand. In the observation room, it was revealed that Waidu's homeroom teacher had advised her to file a report about her father's domestic abuse with the police. He wondered if this was the motive for her crime. In a flashback, Waidu handed a ledger to the male protagonist and said to him, he said that her father had told her to hide it in the locker at school. Then she asked if her nagging father could be caught with this so he wouldn't come home anymore. Back to the present, Kong T wondered why she didn't run away from home right now. The male lead sighed and said, surely Yi Do wants to run away many times, but the problem is, where to go now? The next day, Kong T and the squint-eyed guy were at the supermarket where the nagging girl had bought a yellow raincoat for her. The problem was, this supermarket was a 40-minute walk from her house. Kong T wondered why I had to travel all the way there just to buy a raincoat. Back at the police station, everyone in the team was gathered watching the video recording of Yang Du handling her father. In the video, you can see how the girl held the knife and attacked as if she was following someone's orders. The scariest thing was when she walked to the laptop camera that was recording the whole scene. Then Yang Du said the job was done and smiled contentedly. After watching, everyone gave their own opinion. The girl with the long hair suggested that Yang Du recorded herself handling her father to inform someone. This case likely has another mysterious character behind it, and that person is the one who gave the mysterious candy to Yans. The male protagonist decides to bring the video to his quack doctor's office for analysis. The doctor, initially timid and afraid to watch for fear of nightmares, is then threatened by the male protagonist. The quack doctor finally agrees after watching it. After reviewing it, the doctor concludes that Yans might be hypnotized by his subconscious. He explains that these people often suffer from abuse or lack of affection in childhood, so they lose their judgment and are easily manipulated and exploited by others. Sujin was stunned when he heard this assessment from the quack doctor. It seems he has to go to Yang Du's place to find out who is closest to her. The male protagonist meets the girl's homeroom teacher and learns that Yang Du doesn't have any close friends. The teacher says that once the girl even ran away from home to play with a goofy female student. Sujin asks for information about that female student, and then he and his friend go to the newly opened apartment where the female student lives. The door caught the male protagonist's eye, and he saw a group of boys and girls having a party and getting into a car drunk. These kids didn't know who was in front of them, so they sent their son out to see the guest. Unfortunately for the reporters, the police appeared and corrected them. Meanwhile, at the KT police station, a summary report on Izu's movements on the day of the crime was being given. The young police officer realized that the girl had taken longer than necessary to get back to the bus after buying a raincoat. This meant she had traveled all the way to the supermarket to buy a raincoat just to meeting someone special. Returning to the apartment, the Chow children are obediently kneeling before a self-satisfied girl. At first, the rebellious schoolgirl said she wasn't friends with Waidu at all, but a moment later she blurted out that she was in a mental institution. The male protagonist was surprised to hear this and asked for clarification. The rebellious girl said that her homeroom teacher had suggested that Yang Du should see a psychologist at a place specifically for teenagers, and the therapist for her was the same person she was seeing. The Australian therapist added another important detail. The male protagonist received a phone call from his teammates. They told him that the girl had been visited by Du Hai before she intended to do something reckless, and the person Yang Du met before buying the yellow raincoat was also him. The male protagonist immediately went to the doctor's office. He suspected that the doctor had manipulated Yang Du's psychology to make her do something crazy. The bespectacled doctor gently said he didn't understand what Sujin was saying. It was true that he had met and treated Yang Du for a period of time, but he didn't know that she intended to do something reckless. To further convince Du Hai, He gave her the medicine. The male protagonist watches a video of one of Yang Du's treatment sessions. The video shows the little girl raising her voice and expressing her unwillingness to share anything. Even her way of speaking is somewhat disrespectful. Seeing Swan's distraught expression, he asks if the male protagonist has also experienced something similar to Yang Du. That's why he always avoids questions about her childhood. Swan doesn't want to share much about herself, so she apologizes and leaves. He stops by the hospital to visit Yang Du and asks if she knows. "I didn't hear what I did." The little girl, weakly beaten by her father, said that she was the one who dealt with her father. Sujin tried to press her for more information about the person who gave her the mysterious candy, but Yang Du didn't want to answer. Returning home, Sujin met her mother and brother. Sujin hesitantly asked her mother about the first time she saw her brother. Her mother and brother told her that when he was little, he was brutally beaten by his father, his face covered in physical wounds. The next day, Sujin returned to his old house, and inside, he reminisced about the brutal beating he received at the hands of his father. Soon after, he met Fian. In his childhood version, the suffering Sujin was running away, chasing after him, but suddenly he had a migraine attack and was then taken back to his subconscious corridor. Finally, there was a door, but just as he was about to open it, Sie grabbed his hand and stopped him, telling him not to open the door. Sujin didn't listen and wanted to throw the door open, so the two struggled for a while. After a while, the male protagonist threw open the door, and then he realized he was alone, and all the illusions had disappeared. That night, he received news that Yang Du had escaped from a hospital, and the entire police team. He immediately went searching frantically. After that, Dr. Du called the male protagonist to say that Yang Du was acting strangely. Surely someone was controlling her. At this moment, Yang Du appeared and attacked the psychologist. Hearing his shouts, the male protagonist quickly drove to the therapy office. When the male protagonist arrived at the scene, he didn't see Du anywhere, only the girl being assaulted sitting in the darkness. Yang Du held a knife in her hand and said she was about to leave. The male protagonist begged her to put the knife down, but Yang Du quickly did something reckless. Tormenting himself, the little girl finally passed away in the broad arms of Swan. The male protagonist was in immense pain, looking at the small girl in his arms. Life had been too cruel to her. The next day, he went to see Du Hak after he had been discharged from the hospital. He said that Du's permanent departure was not natural. Someone had done these things to attack him. Swan would definitely find that person, otherwise, he would harm those around him. Returning to the police station, KT gave the male protagonist the ID and password to access Yanzu's account. Surprisingly, when logging into his account, a chat window opens and a user named X messages, "Long time no see." Sujin asks who he is and receives the reply, "Guess." The male protagonist's jaw drops when this X knows his real name. Sujin freezes when the person with the pseudonym X calls him by his birth name. A terrible headache pulls him back to his memory corridor, where he goes straight to the door with the number 102. He now realizes it's an abbreviation for October 2nd, the same day Du chose to do something foolish. Sujin mustered up the courage to open the door. He saw Du standing there, wearing a yellow raincoat, next to his father's cold body. Suddenly, a second later, the girl's face changed to his face when he was young, causing the male protagonist to panic and run back to his office. Sujin searched through police reports about his father's death. He was extremely frightened by what he found because the truth was too horrifying. His adoptive mother had told him that his biological father had died in a fire. But in reality, his father was stabbed 12 times and strawberry syrup was found on the yellow raincoat. The male protagonist hurriedly drove home. On the way, he called his mother repeatedly, but she didn't answer. He ran home to look for his mother but didn't find her in her room, so he woke his older brother up to go look for her. After a while of commotion, Swan and his brother finally found their mother in a shop in a small alley. Today, he discovered that his mother had senile dementia and was no longer as mentally sharp as before. Returning home, she said she didn't want her children to worry, especially Swan. The male protagonist felt, "I feel incredibly distressed seeing my mother suffer like this. I remember that it was because of her that I became who I am today, and now she says she doesn't want to be a burden to me." The next morning, the male protagonist's mother sat at the table, her face serious, and told him that she didn't know how much longer she would be able to remember certain things, so she was willing to answer all his questions about his childhood. Sue took a deep breath and cautiously asked if she would mind adopting a child who might be a gold-carving person. She didn't hear about his own father, so his mother then told him, again, the moment he was found. At that time, the whole British man was severely injured. His head was oozing strawberry syrup. Seeing how pitiful he was, she took him home to care for him so he could gradually recover. And so, The male protagonist lived with his foster mother and her eldest son. She changed his old name from Jae Hui to Swan. Even when his father died and the police suspected the male protagonist was the culprit, the kind mother still stood up to protect him. To her, the male protagonist was just a poor child who wanted to survive, and she never thought of him as a bad person. Soojin was so moved he wanted to cry. That's right, he's absolutely not the one handling people. When Swan stepped outside, he saw CA standing there waiting for him since the afternoon. This was the first time he'd seen him since CA stopped him from opening door number 1002. The male protagonist angrily chased after his second personality, but unfortunately, Swan slipped and fell. CA quickly stopped to help him up, but Swan took the opportunity to pin CA against the wall and demand an answer. Hearing Soojin's father's question, CA declared that he knew nothing. The reason he didn't let Swan open the door was because he was afraid that he himself, the second personality, would. The male protagonist's two sons have dealt with his father. The male protagonist decides to reinvestigate the case related to his father's death. He will not cowardly run away like before. He goes to ask the quack doctor because his memories are very vivid. He believes October 2nd is very important. However, his father passed away on the 23rd. The quack doctor says that it could be distorted memories, or that his own brain created memories to hide bad memories. At the police station, the curly-haired girl helps him understand the reports. Police in his father's case. Is there any connection to the case of Waidu? While reviewing the file of a mysterious candy dealer who was murdered, Soojin stopped at photos of a syrup-soaked knife wrapped in a yellow raincoat. The strange thing is that initially the police concluded the victim's son was the culprit. However, later another man was convicted. The man found to possess the weapon and the raincoat was a man surnamed Zhang, now a barber, after more than 10 years in prison. Although he initially claimed innocence, but suddenly he gave up the appeal and confessed that the male protagonist went to his barbershop to ask for help. The barber calmly said that he suddenly remembered that he had dealt with someone and felt guilty, so he gave his head. However, judging by the way he said it, it felt like the testimony had been prepared beforehand. The curly-haired girl went to see the barber's lawyer and learned that during his time in prison, he always received many letters. When the male protagonist and the girl returned to the barbershop, they didn't find him there anymore. The girl took advantage of the situation. The police rummaged through his belongings to find the letters and soon found them. The male protagonist saw this and immediately read the letter. The letter contained a message from the son of the man who had been harmed, named Jun Ho. In the letter, the son said he would send money to Thang for the barber. It turned out that the son was the one who had dealt with his father and hired the barber to take the blame. At that moment, the barber returned and saw his letter being read by a stranger. He became furious and immediately attacked the male protagonist. The barber kept shouting, "I am the culprit." The man's actions didn't stop there. He even pushed Soojin's head down into a basin of water. Unintentionally, this triggered a distant memory in the protagonist's childhood recollection. He tried to drown himself in the river, but Jun Ho persuaded him not to, and they went to a youth shelter. Returning to reality, Soojin finally escaped the man's control. Now, he cried and begged the protagonist, "Let me continue to believe that I was the one who dealt with you that night." Soojin waited until X logged online and entered the chat. He typed Jun's name. Immediately X finally replied, "You finally remembered me." Soojin demanded. He has to explain everything, but X said, "You have to find out for yourself." The male protagonist felt a headache coming on as he now had to face his deepest memories. He hated that X was acting as if he knew everything and was manipulating him. Another case had just occurred. The suspected culprit was a 15-year-old boy named Dung Hun Kiy. Mr. T had met him once because he was a witness. A report about Dr. Du Hak being attacked today. The young police officer went with a social worker to check on him. When the kid entered the apartment, they witnessed Dung Hun's older brother dead. The kid was stunned by his brother's body at the police station. Soojin kept questioning Dung Hun, but the boy didn't answer the questions, only concerned about whether his brother was really dead. If he was gone forever, that would be better. In Dung Hun's flashback, he planned to attack his brother with a frying pan. The kid told Soojin that only if his brother was gone forever would hell end. This left Swan stunned because it was similar to the phrase Jun Ho had said shortly after. Kyong called the male lead out into the hallway to inform him that Dung Hun had an alibi. The Chinese restaurant where he worked part-time recorded him eating cable TV. Swan immediately understood and turned back to question Dung Hun. "Why did you say you were the one who dealt with people when in reality you weren't?" This case is similar to Yang Du and the barber because they weren't the ones who dealt with people, nor did they intend to harm anyone. But why did they keep? The protagonist admits to being the one who turns other people's bodies into gold, even without evidence, but he doesn't give up on finding the culprit. He checks the security cameras and discovers a strange woman he's seen before on the rooftop of a youth shelter. Sujin and KT immediately investigate at the shelter. The young police officer receives information about the woman. Her last name is KI, and she has a boyfriend who constantly harasses her. Meanwhile, Sujin tries to figure out what she's been doing. Staring intently at the manhole, he and KT decided to open the manhole cover. Finally, they found a sack containing weapons for disposing of people, soaked in beard syrup, and a yellow raincoat. The girl named KI was currently being taken to the hospital because she needed disc surgery due to being repeatedly harassed. The squint-eyed man investigated for a long time but found no connection between her and Jun-ho except that she had been a long-time volunteer at the shelter. Meanwhile, the girl's surgery was underway. The test results confirmed that the strawberry syrup stain on the weapon used to assault the victim belongs to Dong-hun's brother. Fingerprints on the murder weapon belonging to the other girl were also found. Another point is that the girl's abusive ex-boyfriend, a man with long hair, coincidentally appeared everywhere Kong-tae took pictures of Jung-hun. Connecting the evidence, he deduced the real reason. Jung-hun created an alibi for himself so the girl could deal with her abusive brother, while the girl already had an alibi for herself, claiming she was undergoing surgery. Therefore, this is the moment, perfect for Dong-hun to deal with her boyfriend. This means these two plan to help each other deal with someone on the street. When the long-haired boyfriend walked down the street, Dong-hun tried to physically attack him but failed. He lunged at Dong-hun and beat him up. They fought fiercely until the male lead appeared and threw the pipe away, at which point they temporarily stopped. At this point, Dong-hun pulled out a knife and threatened him while Swan calmly talked to him. The long-haired guy took advantage of the situation and ran away, so Dong-hun immediately chased after him, even though Jung-hun. Sujin caught the long-haired guy first, but he pushed him away. He held onto Dong-hun and pressed him against the nearby fence, looking into the boy's terrified eyes. The young man before him saw his younger self. The protagonist recalled the scene of his father's body being carried out of the house. Jun-ho, beside him, whispered thanks for Sujin dealing with his father. Finally, he promised to do the same to save the protagonist's soul. When the protagonist returned to reality, he realized Dong-hun had stabbed him. The young man fled, and Sujin collapsed. In his dreamlike state, the door number 1002 opened again, revealing the truth about his father's eternal departure. But this time, the boy in the raincoat was trembling. A hand was placed on his shoulder. It was CA. Then he asked if he would stay in this labyrinth forever. Sujin was confused, not knowing why he was there. However, he was certain of one thing. He hadn't killed his father. The one who killed his father was Jun-ho. He happily told CA that he hadn't killed his father, but CA smiled and said to him, "That's right." It's not that Sujin's smile faded when he saw the syrup-stained knife in his hand. He thought about the male protagonist's past. Back then, on the rooftop, Jun-ho suggested to Sujin that they should deal with each other's fathers. Only by doing so could they end the suffering they were enduring. Finally, he reassured the male protagonist that he needed to be stronger. Returning to the present, he felt guilty admitting that he remembered his feelings very clearly at that time. He was moved by Jun-ho, and then he wanted to burn his father to ashes. He felt the mistake was turning Sujin into someone who would deal with people in his mind like that. The male protagonist immediately collapsed after hearing this because he lost too much beard syrup. The scene shifts to Swan. At this moment, he is sitting in the quack doctor's room. The doctor tells him that CA had visited at midnight and looked distressed. Swan doesn't believe that CA, with all his heroic aspirations, could deal with someone. However, the quack doctor believes it is possible if CA wants to save the male protagonist in a life-or-death situation. If he can't control himself, then CA, Swan is still able to hurt others. He worries that this means CA is gone forever. Before, when he didn't understand his second personality, he chased CA away. Now that he understands himself, he fears that it was all Jun's plan. He understands his memories better than anyone else, so it's very possible that he distorted Swan's memories to make him doubt himself. Meanwhile, Boss Yong is meeting with a mysterious candy distributor who tells her that it will be difficult to sell her products to potential buyers because it's almost, "There are too many police officers watching us." He tried to lower the price and added a subtle threat about how many people were chasing the short-haired girl. After hearing this, Boss Yong sneered. She broke the lollipop in her mouth, then smashed the bottle of liquor against the distributor. "How dare you threaten me? You don't stand a chance." The police team was still in the hospital waiting to see if Dong-hun would return to visit the girl who had been assaulted. Suddenly, Mr. T noticed a figure resembling Dong-hun passing by, so he quickly chased after him. But the male protagonist, having lost track of his whereabouts, visits Jung-hun's uncle in an attempt to find clues about his whereabouts, but finds no news. He enters the elevator, but it's stuck. This reminds him of the time he faced Jung-hun during an elevator malfunction. When the elevator finally starts working again, he sighs dejectedly. He goes to Jung-hun's house, only to realize something is wrong. He bursts in and finds two foreigners illegally residing there. He locks them in a closet and locks it. Another guy sneaked in from behind, but the male protagonist reacted quickly and grabbed him. It turned out to be a foreign thug from a gang hired by the tough policeman. Looking at him, Taz John remembered the supermarket fight where he and his friend had fought side by side. He was going crazy. He was remembering his second personality again. Outside Jung-hun's house, a discarded food delivery bowl caught the male protagonist's eye. The bowl reminded him that the boy worked as a delivery driver for the restaurant. He went to check on the restaurant, entered through the back door, and saw the boy. While sleeping there, Jung-hun woke up and saw the male protagonist. He was about to run away again, but Soo-jin quickly advised him not to escape anymore. He assured him that he would definitely help him live a better life. Soo-jin knew that he was still concerned about the girl in the hospital. The male protagonist assured the boy, who was crying, that he promised not to let the long-haired boyfriend harm her again. Hearing Soo-jin's words, the boy's heart softened a little. He was about to reveal who the mastermind was when the restaurant's phone rang. Soo-jin answered, asked who it was, and a deep voice spoke. "Up there is Jun-ho." He said provocatively that Jung-hun looks very similar to the male lead, both in family background and inner fears. The male lead got angry and was about to run out to find Jun-ho, but discovered that Jung-hun had already run away. My intuition told me that the boy would go to the hospital where the girl was being treated, and indeed he did. On the rooftop, Jung-hun was using a metal stick to beat up his long-haired boyfriend, but at that moment Swan ran up and stopped him. Because he didn't want him to become the one to take revenge on Jung-hun, sobbing, "You have to do this, otherwise the girl will go to meet the king of hell." The male protagonist notices a hooded figure watching them from the nearby rooftop of the hospital. Without thinking much, he quickly chases after it, assuming it's Jun-ho. The hooded man tries to push the male protagonist with a hospital trolley, causing him to fall to the floor. The man then pins him down and delivers a series of kicks to his face, making the male protagonist recall the time when he was a child and was humiliated by Jun-ho in front of his dying father. At that moment, Jun-ho also understands that the police officer didn't deal with anyone. The hooded man, holding a scalpel, was about to attack the male protagonist, but his arm was stopped mid-air by a gloved hand. The police officer finally appeared to be the hero and save him. He quickly pulled down the hooded man's mask, revealing a face, but it wasn't the person he recognized. Immediately afterwards, the hooded man's phone rang. He chuckled and said through the phone, "Male protagonist, you've been tricked. Catching him won't be that easy. Try harder. Jun-ho is watching." He glanced through the window from the ground floor and could only see Jun-ho escaping without being able to catch him. In another development, the driver Kang reported to Boss Yong that he had found the buyer but still had no clue how YZ got the special mysterious candy package. The girl with short hair, despite having a photo of Boss Yong and the driver from a friend, told her that the name of the mysterious candy package was called Dragon's Secret. At this moment, Boss Yong burst in and the two women had a chance to show off their skills. The girl with short hair demanded that the girl with curly hair reveal the name. Unsure who the man following them was, the girl with curly hair, though not Snow, who liked to obey orders, punched the woman in front of Boss Yong. Yong wasn't one to back down either, so he fought back and handcuffed the girl with curly hair to the table. However, just a few hours later, the police were informed that the driver, Kang, and the hooded man had died at the crime scene. Swan couldn't believe someone could have killed both of them in the car. He worried that Jun-ho knew about his existence and feared he would try to harm Soo-jin. He wondered if he should be taken away. However, the male protagonist strongly opposes this idea. Soo-jin decides to go find a therapist. Do-hak confides that he now has two personalities inside him, and sometimes he doesn't know how to act properly. After hearing this, the doctor smiles kindly and says that he should open up to him, and he promises to help him. Next is a flashback about Soo-jin and Jung-hun's meeting in the detention center. He says that when he found Wai-do in the doctor's office, she cried. At that time, Do-hak spread his arms wide and told her to handle it. While the little girl shook her head in protest, not wanting to do it outside the office building, the male protagonist thought back to what the doctor had said to him. It was a coincidence and a surprise that these words coincided with what Jun-ho had said to him before. He turned to glare at Do-hak and thought, "After all this time, I've finally caught you." It turned out that this therapist was Jun-ho from years ago. A voice next to him asked the male protagonist if he was confident enough to catch this final boss. Do-hak chuckled and said he was completely confident because he has a case next to him. However, Dong-hun's testimony is still not enough. They have to prove that Do-hak is the one who killed the male protagonist. They begin to devise a plan to expose Do-hak's true face. Do-hak is trembling. He will use himself as bait to trap him. In the forensic room, Boss Yong, wearing a blue and white coat, pretends to be an employee to see her right-hand man one last time. After that, she decides to steal Kang's body to cremate her herself, and she promises to avenge him. At Sujin's next therapy appointment, Dr. Ju asked about the first time he saw the male protagonist. He frankly said that it was when he saw Jun-ho dealing with his father. He intentionally emphasized Jun-ho's name to see the doctor's reaction. Additionally, Sujin added that he didn't know about Jun-ho before. He hesitated for a moment, but then confirmed that the male protagonist had saved him from his father's abuse and was trembling with fear. However, as soon as he realized he was talking to the male protagonist, Jun-ho turned his back on him, admitting that he himself was Jun-ho. He even provoked him, saying that the male protagonist had also wanted to deal with his father, Sujin, to protect him. Not only did he say that CA always had a tendency towards violence. This angered the second personality. He just wanted to rush in and send this devil to meet the king of hell, but Sujin held him back. The scene shifts to the evening. The male protagonist and CA sneak into Do-hak's office. After work, while they were rummaging through the doctor's belongings, 2 high school students came in to steal cigarettes. CA took advantage of the situation to act like a hero, criticizing the 2 young boys for trying to smoke. However, thanks to the 2 students, in this scene, the male protagonist obtains the box containing the tapes of Do-hak manipulating the victim back to the police station. The whole group watches the tape recording of Do-hak persuading Dong-hun, saying that he needs help to escape his violent older brother. Seeing this, the police officers feel indignant, especially KTA, who wonders how many children Do-hak has manipulated psychologically. Sujin sighs and asks his teammates to examine anyone Do-hak has advised. These people may be involved in cases of human trafficking or doing something foolish. However, the whole team still needs more evidence. Suggests Jay used the mysterious candy to aid his crime. Perhaps even the handling of the driver Kang is related to him. To do that, the police will need to find Boss Yong. The next day, Swan went to the barber's house, but upon arrival, he found him trying to do something reckless with a bottle of medicine in his hand, along with a letter advising him to give up on life. Fortunately, the male protagonist called for emergency services in time, saving his life. When the barber woke up in the hospital, Sujin reveals that he was also one of Jun's victims, so he understands that he has mixed memories and suspects himself of doing bad things when in reality he didn't. Finally, Swan convinces him to cut his hair and cooperate to catch the villain. After some persuasion, he agrees to the protagonist's offer. When Swan arrives home, Boss Yong suddenly jumps into his car and begins to control his breathing. The short-haired woman plays the recording of her last phone call with the driver. She demanded to know whose voice it was. At that moment, the male protagonist's older brother came out. He saw his younger brother struggling fiercely with a woman. Unexpectedly, a few seconds later, the foolish brother became a hostage in the hands of Boss Yong. She threatened Swan to reveal the owner of the voice in the recording. The male protagonist pleaded, begging her not to harm his brother. He knew she wanted revenge for the driver, and he also had a grudge against Junyo, so he wanted to capture him more than anyone else to prove his sincerity. Swan put down his gun, hoping Boss Yong would. They cooperate once again. The male protagonist recruits another person to help him catch Jun-ho. After gathering quite a bit of evidence, the whole team is ordered to arrest Do-hak, but as they are on their way out, the barber calls Swan. He says he knows who Jun-ho is. Then he tells the male protagonist the address. Swan finds the barber in a dark, empty warehouse. The barber has a gloomy face mixed with a little suffering. Suddenly, he pulls out a knife and attacks the male protagonist. It turns out Do-hak is crazy. The psychological manipulation trick made this man think that Jun-ho was Sujin. His goal was to make him resent and hate the male protagonist. When Sujin tried to explain that he wasn't Jun-ho, the doctor walked in. The barber saw Sujin and rushed over, crying like a child. The doctor smiled kindly and reassured him that everything would be all right. But immediately afterward, he turned into gold. Sujin saw the barber right there. Sujin ran to him, but it was too late. The barber was already dead. At this moment, CA also appeared. He furiously punched Sujin until he was dripping with syrup. The bearded man even grabbed a knife to deal with him. Luckily, the male protagonist stopped him and took the doctor to the police station for questioning. Although Sujin had seen him cut his hair, a confession was still needed to convict him. But Do, who was a cunning and manipulative person, He knew too well how to manipulate people's psychology. Before the male protagonist's accusations about his crimes, the doctor calmly said that what the worm-like man did wasn't his doing. Do, who even said that it was very possible that Jun Ho was another personality of Sujin that he didn't know for sure. The person called Jun Ho really exists in this world. The doctor even boldly said that he had personally witnessed him handling the haircut. The male protagonist couldn't take it anymore. He rushed in and directly subdued him. Outside, the girl with the long hair listened to the conversation. She didn't understand who CA was. Could it be that Sujin had always hidden from her the fact that he had two personalities? Because there was no more evidence, the police team was forced to release Do when the boss told Sujin that he had to cooperate with the investigation. The male protagonist's house was where he lived with his mother and brother. Suddenly, the boy is searched by a group of police officers. The naive older brother tries to reassure his mother, who is now suffering from dementia and will easily become anxious. Strangely, Swan's mother suddenly screams in despair. The male protagonist runs home and finds his beloved house being searched by his colleagues. Just as he is confused and doesn't know what to do, his mother appears, grabs his hand, and pulls him aside to talk. Trembling, she says she remembers everything. She says Swan dealt with his father and took a knife. This is when she first met him. Hearing his mother's words, the male protagonist was in pain, not understanding what was happening. It turned out that Do Hak had brainwashed his mother. He gave her a box containing a knife coated in strawberry syrup. The police quickly found the evidence and concluded Sujin was the suspect. Just like that, Do Hak arrogantly walked out of the station, grinning with satisfaction. The male protagonist ran up to him, questioning what he had done to his mother. Do Hak said he wanted Sujin to return to her previous life. The male protagonist lost his temper and, without hesitation, threw a few punches at the doctor in front of him. He was so numerous that other police officers had to pull him out in utter panic. He remembered the police officer saying that someone like Do Hak didn't deserve to live. The male protagonist took his colleague's gun to attack Do Hak. However, the police officer appeared and rushed to stop him. 4 months later, Swan sat on his hospital bed. He numbly followed the doctor's instructions and took the medicine. The curly-haired woman came to visit him, saying that she, her family, and her colleagues would try to clear his name. Swan had a dazed expression on his face. It seemed he wasn't paying attention to what she was saying. The curly-haired woman wanted to cry when she saw her boyfriend, became listless and couldn't remember anything after visiting the doctors. The male protagonist was taken back to his hospital room. A while later, he stood up and spat out the pill. It turned out he hadn't taken the medicine the doctor gave him because he wasn't sick at all. At this moment, CA appeared, and a wrestling match ensued. The two personalities started fighting and attacking each other like in their first meeting. After a while, Swan gave CA a mischievous smile and said, "It's time to deal with Do once and for all." Swan had tried many times to escape from his cell but never succeeded. He lay on the bed, bored and not knowing what to do, when suddenly CA appeared and encouraged him. In addition, Swan recalled all the challenges and trials that CA had led him through. Up until now, the male protagonist quickly regained his confidence. Then he crushed the pills he had obtained into powder and stored them in a water bottle. Swan then wrote strange shapes on the moon while waiting for the medicine to take effect. The male protagonist continued drawing. He drew a map of the prison camp with X marks to indicate each location. Without security cameras, it's more interesting when Sujin discovers the doctor who supplies mysterious candy to prisoners. The male protagonist uses this to blackmail her and force her to help him escape in an ambulance. The female doctor agrees to help him but doesn't forget to instruct her men to eliminate Sujin. Unfortunately, with the help of the police, the male protagonist is invincible. He quickly escapes from prison to pursue his journey for justice. When the police hear about the protagonist's successful escape, the boss is worried about the future. The whole team mobilized everyone in the department to bring Sujin back. In another development, the boy Dong Han, now free, is playing ball with Do Hak. He acts friendly with the doctor, even promising him he will testify against Sujin when he is arrested. Do Hak wrote that it was all just acting, and the boy secretly recorded the conversation for the male protagonist. Regarding Sujin, he runs to find the quack doctor to ask for help. He wants to find out if Do Hak has any psychological weaknesses. The doctor believes that his greatest fear is about his true identity being exposed, and if they can make that happen, his entire defense system will collapse. The male protagonist is talking to the fake doctor when their conversation is interrupted. The police arrive to arrest him, and his friends all appear. While they are arguing, Sujin takes advantage of the situation to escape. Mr. T and the guy with the squinty eyes try to hold off the others so the male protagonist can get away. Meanwhile, the girl with the curly hair quickly drives to pick him up. and then they both go to the safest place possible to meet up. When the whole group gathers, the girl with the curly hair wants to teach Sujin a lesson because he hid her and even pretended to be sick, causing her worry for the past 4 months. His teammates quickly stopped her. He narrowed his eyes at Kai and T, wholeheartedly protecting the male protagonist. They thought he had his own reasons. Here, Su officially introduced CA to everyone. Although they couldn't see him, they could still sense the existence of this second personality. Then the whole team tried to prove that Du who was Jun-ho. However, this was extremely difficult. Even proving that he had dealt with Driver Kang was difficult because his fingerprints had been completely erased. Then everyone split up. They acted together to quickly conclude the case. The curly-haired girl went to find Boss Yong, who was in prison, to identify the masked man who had passed away on the same day as Kang. Boss Yong looked at the female police officer in front of him with a sigh, thinking he was so capable, but in the end, he still needed the help of the criminal, which was her. After a long conversation, Boss Yong provided the curly-haired girl with information. Following the trail, the squint-eyed man and KT chased after the person who bought the mysterious candy from the masked man. Then, the 2 police officers combined their efforts to attack the man. He had to tell the truth. He confessed that the man in the photo was connected to a closed clinic. The director of that clinic was the quack doctor that the protagonist often visited. Luckily, the quack doctor kept all the records of his old clinic. He sent him a photo of the masked man. Just a few minutes later, the quack doctor revealed the protagonist's true identity. It turned out that the masked man's name was Du Huk. At that moment, Du Huk, trembling with anger, walked in. He coldly approached and spoke to the doctor. The quack doctor said he had always been curious about how Sujin was treated. Then Jun-ho gave a devilish smile and attacked the quack doctor. Just as the male protagonist ran to the scene, he only saw the doctor lying on the ground with syrup all over his beard. The curly-haired girl received a call from her brother Swan informing her that the male protagonist's mother was panicking knowing her son was being followed. After hearing the phone call, the curly-haired girl immediately informed the male protagonist to return home. Sujin received the news and ran home. Luckily, he wasn't caught by the police. The mother's mind became chaotic. In her confusion, she didn't even realize Sujin was calling him an imposter. Luckily, after a long heart-to-heart talk, the male protagonist calmed her down. He kept telling her, "Mom, you trusted me from the beginning. I'm not the kind of person who would harm others." A little later, the male protagonist received a call from Junyo. He threatened that the more Sujin tried to help people, the more they would be hurt. He declared that all he wanted was for Sujin to admit that it was thanks to him dealing with his father that he was able to survive. The male protagonist retorts that it's completely untrue. Jun-ho is only using the excuse of protecting him to justify his crime of mistreating people. After a tense moment, the two decide to meet to settle their grievances. Jun-ho informs the male protagonist that Dong-hun is at his office. He knows all about it. The boy deliberately approached him and recorded what he said as evidence. Hearing this, Swan fears the boy will be harmed, so he immediately goes to Han's place, which is his childhood home where everything went wrong. Entering the darkness, Jun-ho observed the male protagonist's state from the moment they met. Jun-ho had repeatedly asserted that he was a hero for saving Sujin's life years ago. That day, Sujin would have been forever tormented by his father. If it weren't for Jun-ho helping him deal with his father, the scoundrel would have thrown a lighter towards the door. The fire, upon hitting the wood, immediately blazed up, and the house was instantly engulfed in flames. At this moment, Jung-hun was still lying unconscious inside the burning house, watching his familiar home burning brightly. A giant torch suddenly fell, Sujin collapsed, painful memories of his time living in that house flooded back into his mind. Everything seemed to be happening right before his eyes, incredibly realistic. At that moment, CA suddenly appeared beside Sujin and said that they had gone through countless difficulties together, so this little fire was nothing. Hearing CA's words, Sujin nodded in agreement and hurried inside to rescue Jung-hun. However, the moment Sujin reached Jung-hun, lying motionless, Jun-ho gave him an injection of medicine that immediately spread throughout his body, causing him excruciating pain and making him collapse. Seeing Sujin writhing in pain, clutching his neck and trembling, Jun-ho suddenly laughed like a madman. If Sujin begged Jun-ho, he would definitely spare his life. But Sujin stubbornly refused to submit to his enemy. In a fit of rage, Jun-ho lost control and stabbed Sujin in the stomach with a fatal blow. The knife plunged deep into his abdomen, causing Sujin to fall sprawling in pain. Looking down at Swan lying there weakly on the ground, Jun-ho smiled with satisfaction, then turned and walked away. Inside, the fire continued to burn, growing larger. Swan begged, "Use all your strength to save Jun-hun," but at this moment, he didn't even have the strength to stand. let alone save Jung-hun. Taking a deep breath, Swan suddenly remembered the hardships he had gone through, as well as the happy moments with his family outside. Not only his family, but also his teammates were waiting for him to return. That thought gave him strength, give Swan the strength to overcome the enemy and carry Hun out. The first thing Swan needs to do now is block the car of that bastard Jun-ho so he can't escape. Seeing Swan's stubbornness and his continued desire to fight, the madman Jun-ho suddenly smirked with delight. He really didn't expect Swan's fighting spirit to be so strong and unyielding. However, Swan didn't have much time to talk to Jun-ho. He directly rushed into a hand-to-hand fight with that bastard. Although Swan had just been injected with medicine and was weaker, Jun-ho was also taller. He was even darker and more smelly, but in the end he had to surrender to Sujin's deadly blows and his Iron Head technique. Sujin continuously attacked Junyo with his Iron Head technique until he fainted. Because of this, Sujin's head was covered in beard syrup. Finally, he was able to defeat his opponent and end the most important battle of his life. Before Sujin stole his sword, Sujin, exhausted, still smiled because he was so happy. In his dream, Sujin once again wandered into, in the memory corridor, he met CA again. Seeing Swan's achievements, CA couldn't help but feel proud because he had become much stronger than before. The difficulties he had just gone through had made Swan a kind person who always thought of what was right. So now, CA no longer had any reason to stay here. He would gradually disappear into nothingness because of a rather serious head injury, so Swan needed to be hospitalized for a few days. After being discharged, he immediately put on his solemn police uniform and walked to the police station. Standing before the police council, Swan seriously explained himself. Despite his inappropriate behavior, even though high-ranking officials were present, Swan confidently stated that he suffered from multiple personality disorder, and the unruly, wild CA was his second personality. However, it was thanks to CA that he was able to easily solve serious cases recently. When he told this story, some people would surely think he was crazy, but he couldn't deny CA's existence. After expressing all his thoughts, Swan solemnly bowed and turned to leave. The elders say that there's no breaking the law. Fruits will certainly not spare anyone. The wicked worms will eventually have to suffer the consequences of their own actions. In the dark, cramped prison, he was sent to the afterlife by Boss Yong to reunite with the elders. Time flies by. A year later, due to a mission, Swan appeared in a fancy bar. A few police officers wanted to bribe Swan. The stubborn Swan held a huge sum of money in his hand and hesitated, fearing for the future of the country. But those bastards, he thought that the amount was too small to silence him, not beating around the bush like the people of high form. He immediately took out another equally thick envelope. Holding the envelope in his hand, Swan displayed an extremely excited smile. But instead of putting it in his pocket, he took a picture of it to report to his teammates who were lying in ambush outside. Just a second later, the policeman who had bribed Sujon was given a pair of handcuffs by him. Before Swan's arrogance, the policeman quickly told him that this bribe was sent down by his superior, and this bribe also involved the police chief's involvement. Hearing what the police officer said, Swan immediately smiled brightly and went to the police station where he worked. As soon as he arrived, Swan saw the chief laughing and chatting happily with his superior. Without thinking too much, Swan immediately acted the way CA had done. Swan slowly flew up and delivered a kick to the chief's face, just like CA had done to Commissioner Duo K. The movie ends here. Please take 3 seconds to subscribe to the channel to support us. Thank you for watching our channel. See you all.